Great. So in the interest of everyone's time, we're going to get started pretty close to on the hour. And if anyone is interested, the recording will be made available following this session. So thank you and welcome to today's edition of ServiceNow's Ask the Experts. I'm Roz Morville, and I'm a product marketing manager in risk and compliance at ServiceNow. And in this session, we're going to talk about some recent enhancements in business continuity. And we're also going to talk a little bit about where we're seeing the market based on what conversations with customers, being in the market space, and the expertise that we have in-house. We're planning on going for about 30 minutes today. But before I introduce our speakers, let me just remind you of some of the recent several sessions that we've had on risk and compliance in the Community's Ask the Experts series. So we've gone through from supply chain and risk management through privacy, and we had a couple of vendor risk sessions in April that are around enhancements to the vendor risk product, as well as some of our partners like EcoVadis. We also had Interos join us early on in the end of March. So definitely register for any of these sessions. You can sign up in the community. I will share that link. And also you can sign up if you want to go to our YouTube page, which we will share at the end of the session. Everything is recorded there, and you can just search for Ask the Expert, and we will get you right to those links. And you can see everything that we've been talking about in the last several weeks. If you are interested in further information, we do have contact details again at the end of the session. So please feel free to use those links to get to other areas of interest. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. And we have today with us Aaron and Ashwin, who are with our business continuity team. Aaron is the principal global security and resilience for ServiceNow, and he's got about 20 years of expert experience in business continuity and IT disaster recovery. He was actually a founder of Fairchild RS, which is the foundation of our BCM product. We acquired Fairchild RS in 2019. So welcome, Aaron. And Ashwin is our product manager for ServiceNow, and he spearheads the strategy and development of business continuity and operational resilience products. He has more than 15 years experience in visioning, building, and implementing software in the risk management and business resilience areas. Ashwin has enabled small and medium and large-sized enterprises in their successful risk and business resilience journeys. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Aaron, who's going to talk a little bit about the market.
Awesome. Thank you, Roz, and thank you all for joining today. It's great to see some familiar names on the attendee list. And as Roz mentioned, this will be posted online for accessibility in the future for others to join. But you know, the one thing that I wanted to talk through is just in overall strategic terms around what we're seeing in the marketplace, what Ashwin and I are seeing and talking with our customers and prospects. And no surprise, business continuity management is now a household term. I never thought I would say that. Many times earlier in my career, it was more about educating customers and prospects around, hey, what is BCM? And oh, where did it start? And why do people do it? And why is this important again? And is this like an insurance policy? All these things have totally been flipped on its ear. Because we've had to. Crisis has caused us to change and to improve. And so now seeing it in the marketplace and having a good understanding around it, now what we're seeing is people are really looking to mature their BCM approach. And as Ashwin has mentioned in his intro, he's implemented at small, medium, large, enterprise, global. And so have I, and it's really the maturity depends upon what is your goal for resiliency. I'm not here to tell you that you need to be a number 4 or a number 0. It really depends upon what is your goal and how you're going to right size it to meet your resiliency metrics and goals. And So, but what we are seeing are people are moving up this BCM food chain here, from some people that are still in spreadsheets. And once again, judgment-free zone, it could work for you. But many of you on this call today, you're probably already beyond that. Then we move on to, okay, what just happened and how do I fix it type mode, which once again is okay. But what I've seen over my experience is that when you're in this reactive mode, it's usually the loudest person in the room wins. And that's pretty dangerous because that loudest person may not have the overall corporate and strategic vision in place. And they also may not know what you have within assets for your recovery. But, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And then that moves into kind of the basic repeatable areas where you have a program in place, you've done a BIA, so therefore your most critical processes and assets associated with them. You're now intelligent and educated around how your business needs to run. We're all shooting towards a common goal for an exercise management and recoverability. And then we move up to the next level, and where I'm going to kind of bring together level 3 and level 4. So continuous monitoring is really about leveraging your data and different triggers within your organization that can help you make the right decisions at the right time with the right information. And that's also a benefit of doing BCM on the ServiceNow platform, where you have access to most of this information. Most of this information is used to run your business today. So we can leverage that and then help really improve the overall business resiliency posture by using some of this continuous monitoring automation. And then the fourth is the orchestration. This is when the system truly comes to life. It helps you maintain your resiliency. It helps you predict. It helps you identify different scenarios, different impacts to scenarios, and different ways to really help automating your program, which saves time, elevates your identification of a situation, your response to a situation, and then your overall continuous process improvement. All right, Roz. And so along with this in a more mature organizations, we're seeing the convergence of business resiliency projects or programs being pulled into resilient enterprises. Now, that may sound a little nuanced to you, but the nuance is huge. It's huge that organizations now are moving out of their standalone systems and I've been there before, where we would develop these programs in a standalone system or flat files, and then we would try to exercise, and then we would try and or actually do a recovery. And we very quickly learned that data wasn't normalized, which means that you're calling one thing different than what one person is calling it, or it's misspelled, or there's just confusion around the taxonomy around how these data elements are put together. And so when we move from a program into an enterprise, a couple things happen. We're leveraging the same data, which data is my analogy is it's your refined oil, right? It's very expensive, it's rich, it's robust, it drives your enterprise. By leveraging this refined oil, now we're all leveraging the same data. We continue to refine it over time because our business resiliency practitioners are using this data, and when they find an error, they make it better, and therefore the data that runs your business is better as well. And then the other big leap into going from a program to an enterprise resiliency approach is that we embed pieces of resiliency throughout your normal day-to-day tasks. So you may not know that you're doing a resilient task or how often you're doing it, but little pieces of the puzzle are added into your day-to-day operations on ServiceNow that incorporates across all of your products leveraging ServiceNow, whether it's our core IT service management, whether it's customer service management, whether it's IT operations management. all these things start coming into play. And then as you're seeing here, this is the convergence of business continuity and security operations, the other trend that we're seeing come into play loud and clearly. And then this next slide that is going to pop up is how do we do it? And then I'm going to pass it over to Ashwin so he can, show you how we do it on platform with the latest and greatest that's coming out. And so this is how the oil is refined and distributed, to continue that analogy. So our oil is all this information that's within the CMDB. It goes into this process refining system where everyone's using this data within the organization. It's used for on the left for your asset information, all these different areas of the data that we can leverage and refine. And then on the right-hand side, it's how we pull and complement and further define the data by leveraging it for risk management purposes. So across our entire risk management portfolio, from business continuity to identifying risks, to mitigating risks, to controlling these risks and testing, to DR planning, that's the beauty of the platform, is that it's for the business, it's how the business runs, and then it's also for how do we create a resilient organization that's embedded within the platform. So that's how we think about things. This is how we design our products, and this is how we support our customers. So Ashwin, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Great. And can I also just remind people that if you do have questions throughout, just feel free to put it in the chat window or the Q&A, and we'll get to as many questions as we can.
Sure. Thanks, Aaron. Let me share my screen and then we can get started. I hope you guys can see my screen. So what I wanted to showcase here is a tour of the recently released enhancements that was released in March, that is last month. We will take a look at what are the enhancements that we had done. And then if there are any questions, we can take them up, right? So this is the agenda. I'll just use this one slide and then we can look at the application directly. I have an instance already logged into. We can go through these items, right? The first one is about an enhancement that was done in business impact analysis, right? This was a key enhancement that we had done. We have now enabled our customers to go and configure different parameters that needs to be captured as part of a dependency assessment and dependency categories. We will look at how the end user screens are going to be changed, and we can also see how the administrator can configure these things, right? Two-step process. We will go into the application now. As I said, if you have any questions or comments at any point, please feel free to put it into the Q&A. We will take them up and then move ahead. Having that said, I have already logged into an instance here. So I hope you guys can see that. So I have opened up an business impact analysis that's already created and stored. I am in the edit mode of that particular business impact analysis, right? I've picked up a process-based impact analysis here. And for me and my team, in order to carry out the business process and complete it on a successful way every day, right? We need, let's say, there are some vendors that we need. There are some facilities that we are dependent on. There can be software applications that we are dependent on. There can be hardware that we are dependent on, and so on, right? Some of you guys might know this. There's no cap size on what kind of dependencies you want to capture for your business impact analysis. These could be your everyday dependency or your crisis time dependency. You can capture both of them, have a flag set which can differentiate both of these different things. So once we have defined these different parameters, earlier in the software, you would be able to capture different items that are related to that, right? So let me show you one of the examples here. So here, you'd be able to add multiple items that are needed. In this case, I have added some companies, right? These are all the vendors that me and my team are dependent on in order to carry out this particular business process. I'd be able to get that in. I can give it a description of use, required time frame, etc. Now, there was a limitation here that irrespective of what type of dependency we are looking at, be it a vendor, what we saw, or a location. Let's say when we say location, These are all the facilities that we have in the organization, right? The assets that we have, the facility assets. These are managed within ServiceNow's Now platform as well. So I'd be able to map and then say, these are all the facility related dependencies that we are having, right? So you can also put in how this facility is used. Is this an office? Is this an warehouse? Is this a distribution center? Whatever that is, based on your business needs, you'd be able to call that out. And these are all the different locations that are needed for this process to be completed. In case any of this goes down, there'll be an impact on my business process, right? Now, the challenge here was, irrespective of the different types of these dependencies, the same set of attributes or the details were getting captured for each one of them. So if I add a particular column here, this is an example that I've taken. So if I add a particular column here in one of the dependency categories, let's say locations, it would also start showing up in the vendors part of it, right? So we couldn't capture different parameters or different metrics for different types of dependencies. So this was a limitation we had earlier, which we have addressed now. That's where we said, for each kind of dependencies, you would be able to capture what is relevant to that, right? So I'll show you an example of that, and then we'll see how to configure that as well. Now, for example, the business use case was that for a vendor kind of a dependency, I would like to capture a detail called SLA, the service level agreement with that vendor. That information could be something that the user is entering here, or it could be coming in from an external system or already stored in information that is getting flowed in, fetched from an externally stored system, or it is sitting on ServiceNow's Now platform, right? So these are the different use cases we had. So what we have done here is the administrator can go ahead, and I have configured some columns here now. You can see for applications, I've configured some 5 or 6 columns, right? So you would be able to decide what columns should come up upfront in this view. That is the summary kind of a view where I can see all the software application dependencies, and the user would be able to go and select. For example, here I have a date column, right? I can click on that. I can go select a particular date. In case there's a date related parameter that I want to capture or a metric that I want to track against each of this particular application, right? I can also go in and add some text that can be a text information, or I could refer to something that is sitting on our platform. Let's say this is a CI information that needs to be tagged along with this dependency, or it could be a date time column, right? So these are some of the examples I have added, but it doesn't stop here. You can also have some read-only columns that are coming in from an external system. For example, it could be something that is getting pulled in and stored here for reference purpose, like an SLA for a vendor or a particular contact person's detail for this particular application, who's the owner of it, and so on, right? So we will be able to read those information and put it in. Now, the advantage of doing this is you would be able to capture different details for different dependency types. The first level of configuration is you can decide what columns needs to be shown up in this view. Now that doesn't stop there. We recommend, however, that you add not more than 6 or 7 columns that are really critical here, right? Otherwise, it will introduce a long horizontal scroll. So you would be able to see those columns, and you can have 50 columns, let's say. The user will have to keep scrolling to the right and then keep entering the value. So what we recommend is you add something that fits into this view. And then if you have, let's say, 50 or 100 more parameters, you can still add it. But then the user would have to click on this particular icon here or the record itself to launch this full page view, where you will be able to see all the details. Let's say, for example, you wanted to capture hundreds of details for this particular application kind of dependency. You can still capture all of them. You can have an attachment that is going along with it. You can have a paragraph kind of an information. You can capture an image, any of these things, right? All of this is still stored within the context of that particular dependency. But then upfront, when the user looks at this form, they only see the summary items or the really critical items that you want to bring outside and show the user. So this is what we have added as the configurability in this particular released for this enhancement. This is the end user view, right? Now let's look at how the administrator can configure this. So for that, I have logged in as an administrator in another screen here. So under business continuity, you would find the general administration section. You'll be able to go to the general administration section, and you will be able to see something called as element variables. This wouldn't there in the previous releases, this option. This is something new that we have added now, right? So you can click on that. You will see these are the different columns I have created for this demo purpose. So you'd be able to create your own by clicking on new. So for now, I'll go into one of the things that we have already created and stored. For example, there's a string column that we have added, right? This is where we, I think, added this one particularly, right? So I'd be able to go in and I can say, what does this particular column apply to? So this applies to the dependencies called applications, right? Currently, it's a one-on-one mapping that we have done. In case we want to enhance this in future, let's say the string column that I'm adding needs to be applicable to applications as well as vendors, we would be able to enhancing that in the future. But for now, you would be able to set up multiple of these and then create them in the system, right? This applies to applications. So this particular string column would start appearing in this application section under that. And then I would be able to say what type of field this is. So basically, we support all the field types that are supported typically by ServiceNow's now platform. You'll be able to see all of these different field types, and you can define what kind of field this is, right? So you'll be able to say what kind of field this is. Is this a string? Is this an integer, and so on, right? We'll be able to set that up, and then you can provide a label to this. This is the label that the end user will see, as well as what will get printed into your PDF files that you download. Now, you can also say what is the maximum length that it holds, and we will be able to say whether this is an active column or a detail or not. The reason we added this was, in future, if you think this particular detail is not relevant anymore, right? So you'll be able to simply make this inactive. It will not come up in further analysis that you guys are going to do. But this would be still stored, and it will be available for reference for, let's say, a business impact analysis that was done in 2017, right? So you'll be able to go back in time, look at those business impact analysis, and you'll still find this particular detail that's being captured for that analysis at that point in time. You can make it read-only, such that the user will not be able to edit that particular column or parameter. This is what I was showing you here, right? Let's say in case this is getting fetched from an external source or sitting on a different table on ServiceNow's now platform, you'll be able to read that information. You don't want the user to write anything into it, right? This is only an FYI kind of an information. You can set that up as well. So that's your read-only. You can make a particular field a mandatory field. Without filling this information, the user will not be able to complete the entire analysis. The display field here would be used to show it up in the summary or in the details. Enable reporting. Again, you can also add paragraph kind of information here, right? You don't want reporting on top of it. Typically, you would want details like what is supposed to be reported that can be picked up. And we would be able to use that for taking it into temporary reporting tables, and that will enable the reporting for this. So these are the administrative enhancements that we have done around element definition. Once the elements are defined, the next thing is you will be able to say, what are the grid categories, right? So this is the next configuration that you can do. By default, the application ships with what we call as dependency assessment, right? In the business impact analysis, you would see there is dependency assessment. This is the tab. These are the tables or grids we have where we have enabled this by default. But this configuration is being introduced with an intent that you would be able to configure the same kind of stuff for even your, let's say, the revenue impact analysis for your RTO calculation, right? Similarly, your RPO calculation. In those grids as well, we'd be able to add a particular configuration and say this particular column applies to those grids as well. So you'll be able to do that here. But for this release, we have out of the box enabled this particular configuration type for dependencies. You can also enhance it or configure it to support certain details for revenue impact, certain details for legal impact, etc. So you can configure these columns there, and it will start showing up only on those particular items. So you'll be able to add those details as well. And then finally, yeah.
Can I just ask you a couple of questions that are in product questions, or do you want to wait?
Definitely. Just hold on for a minute. Let me just finish this last piece of on this enhancement, and then we can take it up.
Fantastic.
Okay. So this was the last one on this same lines, grid configurations, right? So this is where we connect the element definition, and then you can have these grid configurations created. Once this is created, you can say which ones are active and not. Based on this configuration, this will start showing up in the UI. Yeah, so this was the first enhancement and the admin configurations for that. Let me see if I can take up some of these questions. Yeah, Plus, do you want to read it out, or do you want me to read it?
I can get that. So in the relationship source, is this information part of the CSDM, or is it uniquely in BCM?
Yeah. Okay. So the relationship source, right? I'm assuming, yeah. So that is going to be
when you were talking about locations.
This one, that's right. So this one would be CSDM or CMDB. Sorry, if it is getting fetched from the CMDB directly. If you're adding it manually within BCM, this will read BCM. So that's the difference between the source types. I have added it manually here by clicking on this button, right? This is within the BCM application. So when I add it like this, it will be marked as BCM. This got added in BCM. And if it is already there in the CMDB and you're just pulling it in, right, by clicking on add dependencies. So if there were new dependencies, you could say there are 10 of them that have got pulled in, or 20 of them that have got pulled in. Those kind of items, it will get marked as CMDB. I hope that answers that question.
I think so. And then specifically in the display field, what makes it show in workspace view list associated with the dependency is the display field. What makes it display?
That is the display field. Yeah, that's right. So the display field will come up. Basically, it will be used for showing it up in this tabular view, or if you add it as a field, for example, it will come up in the record view. This one, right? So I think I was telling you how you can click on this one, and it will open up in this kind of a record view, right? So, for example, you can see there are some true or false. As an example that we added. This will not be there in this, right? So you can choose to show or display some of these fields that you're adding upfront in the grid, or you can choose to keep them in the details section, like your attachments, or you can have a big paragraph information that's getting captured, etc. That's what that display will work for.
Great. Someone was asking if you could show a little bit more about the grid view. So if you could just click around a little bit more on how that works. And
so this is the grid here. Ideally, what we are looking at is identifying different types of information categorized, right? That's what this grid is used primarily here for. Let me quickly reduce this or collapse this and then show it to you guys. So in an RTO impact assessment, typically there are some questions asked to the users. There can be questions related to revenue impact. In case my process goes down, what would be the impact on the revenue of the organization? What would be the legal impact on the organization? What would be the workforce, impact on the workforce, impact on regulatory or reputational, etc. Right? Each one of this is created as a category, which is actually introducing a grid here. And inside the grid, the number of rows are pretty much configurable. You can ask multiple questions. And the columns that you see here were typically, static. Basically, it was not very much flexible to configure this. Now we have introduced this functionality, which got released in March this year, that is last month, right? Again, it's already available on the store, generally available for all customers. You would be able to add different columns for each of this category or this particular grid. That's the enhancements that we have done. Similar to this, you would also be able to see there are multiple grids here. Each category is a grid in itself. And in this grid, you can add n number of records, right? Each row is a record. Now, we have also introduced the capability for you to go and change these columns per grid or per category. That's this enhancement. I hope that answers your question.
And then you were talking about what was available now versus what is, when we look at the other question was about the UI and when we will be moving BCM into the new UI. So
yeah,
everything that you're showing today versus the UI enhancements.
Yeah, so the if the question is about when this will move into user interface builder, the UIB, right? We have planned it for February of 2023. That's the start of next year. That is when that will get released. We hope once you guys go for your vacations, holidays, come back, this should be ready. So your team should be able to start using this in Feb of 2023. That's the idea for the UIB.
And is that
All right.
So Polaris, just the look and feel?
It's not just a look and feel. We will have multiple enhancements around that, like dashboards, overviews.
But that's going to be the big overhaul for the UI.
That's going to be a user interface overhaul for all of this. Yes, that's right.
Right. And then specifically around the grid questions, yes, that did answer what the person was asking. So thank you for that.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Nope, go ahead. That's it for now.
All right, thank you. So the next one that we have released, the next enhancement that we released was to enable two different use cases, right? Two of them, but it's a single functionality. We will go through this. Okay, so you have entered all of these details here and in the business impact analysis, right? So you have the dependencies that we captured, you have the assessments that you have done, etc. Similarly, there is a business continuity plan also that I have open, right? You have captured what is the scope of the plan. You have decided what is the documentation that needs to go in. What are the steps to be followed by your team, right? You have added the instructions, you have added screenshots. Then you're saying who is the team who needs to work on your instructions. Then you can also say what are the tasks that they need to carry out. All of these details, right? It can be multiple. I've just taken a small plan here for this example. Now I created it, let's say, and then I published it in the system, right? For my department. Let's say I created it for a finance department, let's say, just as an example. So one of my colleagues from a different department wants to pick it up and then, make minor edits to this and use it in for their own organization or department. Earlier, we didn't have this capability. They would have to copy or they'll have to recreate everything from ground zero, right? Now, what we have done here is we have introduced a simple functionality for copying this data at any stage in the workflow, either published or I'm still creating it, right? At any point in time, if somebody has access to this, they would be able to simply say, click copy. It would pop up a window where you would be able to see the name of it. So this is basically the current name of the plan here, the application failover plan, which is appended with an _1. Right, so this one I can say this is app, let's say failover plan for my department. Right, so I should be able to provide it my own name, and then I can say confirm. Typically, it just copied. It gets copied, and it is stored under the draft section of the plans. Right. Ideally, we wanted to open the copied one as a new tab. That's something that we are working towards. That will happen in the next release. It's an enhancement, but still, the functionality is available now. So app failover plan for my department has been copied and it is available in the draft. That's what this message says, right? So I can go into this one. I can go into the plans drafts. and app failover plan for my department. This is what the copied plan is, right? I can launch this one, and you can see this is the copied plan, which would have all the details that was there in the original one. Irrespective of what kind of detail it is, everything is getting copied here. And this is the original plan, right? That remains untouched. We just created a new copy of that and changed the name of it. The ID of it would have got generated. And now I can go ahead and make the edits that I want to and publish this for my department 1, 2, 3, let's say, right? This is one of the use cases for reusing the plan that's been created in the system, and then you can keep doing this. So this will also copy the recovery tasks. You can see all of these tasks, different tasks. You can see these are the recovery teams who need to work on it. Probably for my department, this team doesn't, is not relevant anymore. So I can delete this the team members, and then I can add a new team who needs to work on this and publish it. So when the plan gets activated, the new team gets the tasks, and then they will be able to work on it, right? So that is use case number 1. Use case number 2 is, this is again a workaround for now, but we will be enhancing this in the future. The second use case is, let's say I created this plan in 2022, right? Now I want to revisit this plan in 2024, let's say once after 2 years, right? So I don't want to overwrite this particular plan, what was created in 2022. I want to keep a copy of whatever that was, but in an archive mode, right? So I will just copy this in 2024, make the edits, whatever is relevant for that time frame, right? In that current time frame, publish that as a new version of the plan, and move the old one into archived state. So what would happen is the plan that was archived, that is the 2022 plan version, would go under archived. It will not come up for any further reporting, or when you are having an exercise, this will not get scoped in. It's an archived plan, right? For users to go back in time and look at what was there earlier. And then the new version that you have edited and published would be in transactions. This is the second use case. So we don't automatically archive the old version of the plan. The user will have to just click off a button. They can archive this. So it will be similar to this one, right? So all you need to do is just click on archive, and this would start going and sitting under the archived version of the plan. So it will just move into that state, and this will not come up for your further scoping in exercises. This is the second use case that can be achieved by this particular copy functionality. This was the second one. I think there are some questions. We can take that up.
Yep, one of the questions was the level of user permissions. Does it take to copy?
So whoever can create a plan would be able to copy this, right? It's so out of the box, there is a role called planner, basically the person who can create plans and view and edit plans, all of this, right? So they will be able to create and copy this. There's no separate permission needed to copy. In case I'm able to view this, I will be able to view all of these. These buttons wouldn't be enabled, right? If I'm able to edit and create new plans in the system, these buttons will be enabled for me. So along with the old ones, the handles, copy will be one of those buttons. I should be able to click on this and copy this. That's the permission needed. That's all.
Great. And are there any limitations with using a copy plan?
There's no limitations in this copy plan. As I said, it will copy the entire thing. Great. So irrespective of any field or any table or anything under any of these particular tabs, it will just get copied. Yeah.
Great. And I think the other part was, I don't know if this is a good suggestion or a can you do it, could this copy function be used more as a templating tool?
Yeah, of course you can. So just to let you guys know, there is also some enhancements that we are doing on the templates. We already have a plan template functionality, which is currently driving only this particular section, right? I can create a template and I can have these are the different details that needs to be captured as part of the template. Now we are enhancing that as well. Like it could contain your loss scenarios, the recovery tasks, etc. All of this can be captured as a template and stored, and you can reuse them. That is coming up in Feb of 2023. But till that point in time, of course, you can use copy as a template. That's what I said, right? So I create a plan and one of my colleagues wants to use it as a template and create their own version of it. That's nothing but using it as a template. So they can use it, but it is not an actual template that gets stored in the system. It's a plan that's existing, and then you just use a copy and then create copies out of it. We can use it as a stopgap kind of an approach for now.
Great.
All right, so that was the second one. I'll quickly go over the other ones. So the next one is the next set of things are really usability enhancements that we have done. There is an edit and reorder in the plan documentation sections. We did not have this earlier. We have introduced it now. So you'll be able to see this delete button and edit button, etc. So you'd be able to edit and delete or make any changes to the plan documentation part. So let me just click on this one. So you'll see what comes up, right? So you'll be able to edit the title of that particular section and the description or the help text that needs to go in here. That is nothing but this particular line of text, right? It's not the actual content of the plan, but this is something that can help your user to understand what's there in this particular section. And then you can also always go ahead and then edit what it contains, the plan itself, what it contains, right? That is the next one that we have introduced. And all of this will get printed into the PDF file when you generate the PDF file, whatever changes you are making. Now, once the plans and BIAs are approved, earlier we had some limitations in editing the approved plans and BIAs. People were not able to do it. So we have opened up all of those permissions now. Now, whoever can edit a particular plan or a business impact analysis, even though it is approved state, you will be able to go in and edit those items. So you can pick up a plan from approved and edit it. It will just go back into the draft stage and then follow the entire workflow. That's what this particular item is. There are some improvements that we have done in the BIA grids. So let me quickly show you guys that. This is where we were discussing, right? So there are some applications that we captured. We were discussing this particular grid functionality. So here you can see there is an annoying little scroll bar that comes up. There's not enough real estate to look at multiple different details at one shot, right? So more often users want to see everything together in one single pane of glass. So what we have done is we have introduced a full page mode and then some enhancements on how many clicks you need to do in order to save the data, etc. So you can just do a full screen mode of it and that particular grid pops out. You'll be able to view all of this printed or edit data. Once all of this is done, you can just click on this and then it just gets tucked in, right? So from the context where it got launched. For each of this grid, you can do that. But when you're going to print this as a PDF file, of course, there will not be any scroll bars in there. We will print everything as page 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Right? So there's a natural flow to the document. This enhancements was done on this particular view. And then one more item, like the exercises and crisis events. We did not have a workflow on this one. So when you start an exercise, you just take it into work in progress. Basically, you assign tasks to people, people finish it, and then you just close the exercise, right? This is what we had earlier. Now what we have done is we have, however, come up with a functionality where once the exercise is done, you would start it, it goes into progress, people are working on stuff. Once they are done, the owner of the exercise or the person who's coordinating with everybody, right, the manager, would be able to submit that exercise once it's done with its results, findings, etc., for approval. So that will go into pending approval as a state. People would be able to review this results, they'll be able to comment on it, etc., and it can go to and fro, right? So it goes into a return state if I ask more questions, or if, let's say, you're going to say, yeah, this is all fine, let's just approve this. It will go into an approved state. And once it's not valid anymore, it will go into a closed state as well. So this kind of an workflow is what we have also introduced in this particular release. So these were the enhancements that we have done. Apart from this, there's also a bunch of issues that got fixed and minor enhancements that have also gone in. I've not gone into details of that. We will get into deeper dive sessions when we are going to do more detailed videos and post it for all of you guys. So those were the enhancements. Now I think there are some more questions we can take up, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I think the final questions were around editing within the BAI grid.
Editing within the BIA grid. One second, let me just see here.
It says that the issue for us is our current version is the editing a row is difficult. And has that been improved, or do you?
Oh yeah, we did enhance some of those things here already. Let me see if I can pull that up. So I'm assuming you're talking about the number of clicks that needs to go in here, right? So we have made sure that you can do a double click on any of these cells that will allow you to edit it. For example, if I double click on any of the cell, it will open up. In this case, it's a reference field, right? You'll be able to select these things and then click on the next one or select the option. It just gets saved. Earlier, there was also a difficulty in saving these values. We have enhanced those things now. I think they have reduced it. The team has reduced it from 3 clicks to 1 now, right? So that's the ratio in which that has got reduced. But having said that, there's one more update that I wanted to give you guys. We are also reworking the entire experience on BIA. So we want to make it look like a survey that the user takes up, not like filling up grids and tables. Basically, this should be a business user-friendly survey where the user answers, let's say, 10 or 20 different questions. They wouldn't even know that they're doing a business impact analysis, right? If you think about it, all of these are just questions. What would be the revenue impact? What would be the legal impact? These kind of questions, and help text for them to provide the answer. As and when they start providing the answers and saying, these are the different applications we are dependent on and so on, the analysis gets completed and posted. So that's something that we are working on for 2023, right? In 2023, this would still get refined. There will be still a new UI that comes out that can be used by end users, and this will still be maintained for the BCM experts, right? That's the plan for this particular item. Okay.
And I know we're rapid firing you with questions, but the last one I'm going to address, and if there's any additional questions, we can take them offline and definitely get back to you. There was just a question on when a crisis event is triggered, can emails be sent out to the owners of the recovery tasks?
Absolutely, right? Yeah, we will be sending out emails to the recovery task owners. Yes, the recovery task owners will not be getting an email out of the box when the crisis event is reported, but when the task is assigned to them. Let's say the crisis event has been reported at 9 a.m. That doesn't send out any email to the recovery task owners, right? So once I understand the crisis and then I start adding tasks into that, and then the tasks start getting triggered, that's when the emails goes out to the task owners. But you can go and configure it to go out at any point in time. So ServiceNow's platform is, the Now platform is flexible in that sense and very powerful, right? So based on any edit on the data or event, you can send out an email or a notification.
Awesome. Thanks so much. If there are additional questions, this is a great opportunity to ask them, but we can answer them afterwards. So definitely get in contact with us. Thank you so much, Aswin, for going through that in detail and answering those questions, because that's what we're here for, and that's what drives these events. So thank you so much. And with that, I am going to just go to the point where, if I can, where we just give you a few additional resources. We are obviously on the website, and you can find information there. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. The Community is also a great place. We will continue to update you with events and information there. The Ask the Experts section on the YouTube page is very, very informative across the platform and within BCM. And then we're also making sure that we're going to be updating some of the videos on YouTube shortly as well. So stay tuned for any of those. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, Aaron, Aswin, thank you so much for bearing with the questions. I was hoping to just take a half hour of your time, but with so much detail and so many enhancements going into each offering, then it's great to be able to see this and deliver this to customers. So additional questions, please be sure to answer. We also are going to have a risk forum coming up. So both if you are interested in participating in that and or you have unique ideas that want to be presented in upcoming forum, reach out to myself or Aaron, and we're happy to include you in that and give you an opportunity to share some of your insights. So definitely reach out, let us know. Thank you so much for joining us today, Aswin, Aaron, everyone, thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.